Overall car of the year for 93? Hey, it's obvious. There's only one choice.
I think it's tougher today because a lot more of the cars are much more sophisticated than before, whereas maybe you were going more to the foreign models for performance. Now a lot of the American companies are coming out with pretty sophisticated technology as well, so there's a lot more choice out there, I think.
Motoring 93 is brought to you by Quaker State. Quaker State, one tough motor oil. And Midas, your under-the-car specialists for imports and domestics.
This week we are on location in the office of Michael Syke, the senior editor here on Motoring 93. He's the man who, along with a little help from these VTR machines and computers, puts the pictures together each week. And this week we have a very special program. We'd have to get yours truly in this monkey suit. This week we are presenting our annual Car of the Year show. And joining me shortly will be Graham Fletcher, our man behind the wheel each week on Test Drive. Also popping up this week will be Jim Kenzie along with his soapbox, and we'll be heading to our Motoring 93 garage for a few comments from Bill Gardner. But first, what about these Car of the Year awards? Do they really mean anything to you, the consumer? When you go in to buy a car, are you really influenced by what you see, read, and hear in the media?
I find that there's such a selection out there that to have it narrowed down by professionals or experts certainly helps me out a lot.
If it meant a safety factor, I am very safety conscious. That would change my mind. But as far as mileage or anything like that, I mean, that wouldn't bother me.
Well, I'd say it's probably about 50% of the amount the weight that I would put on the model that I would choose, but I would also base it also on just driving the actual car myself and getting my own feel for it.
A portion of my earnings go into TV media, and so I have to trust these people and their opinions because they're professionals. So, yeah, I would have to really trust them because I don't know as much about cars as most people do, so I'd probably have to trust him.
So that was a brief poll, but it does seem that the media does have some influence on at least some consumers out there before they buy a vehicle. Joining me right now is our man behind the wheel each week on Test Drive, Graham Fletcher. Nice to see you've still got that part-time job as a waiter, Graham. Did that poll surprise you at all?
No, not really. I mean, I had a hard time selecting some of the winners that we're going to review this evening. Very difficult choice, and I guess any help you can get, every little bit helps.
What are we going to see today? What are our categories?
Okay, over the last year we reviewed an awful lot of cars, and basically what we did, we broke them down into 5 specific categories. First off, we have the family sedan, followed by the best economy car, best new luxury car, then best new sports car, and last but no means least, sport utility, light truck or van, and the best in that category. Now believe me, I had a real hard time boiling those things down to get 3 just to make the final category. Picking the winner from those 3 was extremely difficult.
All right, well, we'll have a look at the winners. Remember, along with those 5 categories, we'll also have our overall Car of the Year for 1993, and we'll get to our Economy Car of the Year when Motoring 93 continues, so stay with us.
Before the rest of the lads tell you what they think the Economy Car of the Year is, I thought I'd throw my 2 cents worth in. You know, it wasn't too long ago when you said economy car, you pretty much meant Japanese. Then Toyota came out with the new Corolla. Nice car, but Toyota dealers have had to put oxygen masks in their dealerships to resuscitate customers who take a look at the sticker price on this thing. $14,500 for a base Corolla? Maximum sticker over $22,000 for a Corolla? Get out of town. You can buy a Ford Escort, sedan, hatchback, or station wagon with air conditioning for around $11,500. The Saturn isn't a whole lot more. The new Volkswagen Golf starts at $10,300 and goes to about $14,000 for a fully equipped GL model. Key point, these are all domestics. The Golf is built in Mexico, don't you know? Free trade and all that stuff. And of course, there's the Korean Hyundai models to consider. You know, it looks like the Japanese have pretty much abandoned the economy car segment, unless they think the Tercel can compete with the Escort, Golf, and Saturn. I don't think so.
Welcome back to our Motoring 93 Car of the Year special. It's now time for our economy car category. Now, prior to the break, Jim Kenzie said he felt the Toyota Corolla did not belong anymore in the economy category. You disagree?
I do indeed. The reason that I disagree is that, quite simply, the Corolla doesn't compete in the larger family car category. You know, it used to be a small car. They've brought it up in terms of size and made it obviously more expensive, but it's still a fairly economical car to run.
All right, well, let's see if the Corolla has made the 3 finalists for Motoring 93's economy car of the year.
The finalists in this category are the Hyundai Elantra, the Toyota Corolla, and the Volkswagen Golf. The Elantra was a landmark car for this growing Korean company because it was their first model to offer truly up-to-date technology. For the 93 model year, they have added the one ingredient missing from the original car. Quite simply, that is power. The new 1.8-litre engine is a very welcome addition to an otherwise terrific little car. The Corolla has been a perennial winner since its inception. Indeed, it won no fewer than 4 of CAA's used car awards. The new for 93 model moves this vehicle upmarket in every respect. It is larger, certainly more refined, and when equipped with the new 1.8-litre engine, a lot more powerful. Summing up the Corolla is easy. It is extremely well designed and engineered, if rather expensive. The Golf is, to all intents and purposes, a modern-day Beetle. While totally new for 93, one cannot mistake it for anything other than a Volkswagen. As with the other 2 cars in this category, the new Golf offers an extremely well-engineered package at a decent dollar. It is safe to say that sales of this automobile will be brisk. The winner of this very competitive category is the 1993 Hyundai Elantra.
They're going to be talking trucks in a minute. Now, did you know that 1 vehicle out of 3 sold in Canada is officially a truck? That's right. Now, I'll grant you the minivans. They're very, very practical vehicles. Although most people buy them as passenger cars, technically they are trucks. But what's with all the pickups out there? Now, I've never lived in Calgary, although my sister does. I've visited there lots of times, but I just can't understand a 4,000-pound vehicle with a huge V8 engine gets maybe 8 miles per gallon, and there's no place to put a briefcase. There's no place to put a picnic lunch where it won't get wet. And in bad weather, these things are lethal, slip-sliding all over the place. I grant you, you can put the Easy Rider rifle rack in the back, although the last one I saw had a carpenter's level in it. But why do people drive these things? I'm afraid you'll have to ask them, because I just don't get it.
Up for this award are the new Range Rover, the Mercury Villager and Nissan Quest, and the Toyota T100 pickup. Obviously, all 3 are very different, but by the same token they're the same because they represent the very best in their own specialized field. The Range Rover has enjoyed the reputation as being the world's best off-road vehicle. For 93, things get even better with the addition of a totally new air suspension. This new suspension selects the right ride height for the situation. When off-road, you can actually raise the vehicle up to improve ground clearance. Combine that with the longer wheelbase and things just don't get any better. The totally new Villager and Quest resulted from a meeting of the minds between Ford and Nissan. The resulting vehicle features the very best technology from each company. Perhaps the highlight of this new minivan is the very clever manner in which the rear seat slides back and forth. This makes changing the vehicle configuration around very light work indeed, something that gives it a distinct edge over the competition. For several years now, rumours that Toyota were about to release a full-size truck have been rife. When the thing finally arrived this year, it turned out to be a very clever adaptation of the 2 existing truck lines. It offers the nimble handling of a small truck with the payload of a full-size unit. As such, it offers the very best of both worlds and is the reason it made the final 3. The winner of the best new van, wagon or light truck for 1993 is the Mercury Villager and Nissan Quest.
By way of a postscript, there's one item I'd like to add, and that is that those 2 minivans are one of the very few on the market that actually meet all passenger car safety regulations. Something that, given that you're going to be carrying a lot of kids in those cars, make sure you check that out.
Okay, and if I can just make a quick comment, when it comes to the off-road vehicles, that Range Rover, I still think it's not pretty, but it's still one of the best, but it comes with a price tag of $70,000. All right, we'll be back with more as we continue with our Car of the Year special. Dropping by shortly will be Bill Gardner with some of his thoughts on cars today. That and much more when Motoring 93 returns. Stay with us. Welcome back to our Car of the Year special. Up next is our Luxury Car of the Year. But before we get to that, we're going to head to Motoring 93's garage where Bill Gardner is standing by. Now, Bill, today's new cars have all sorts of new technology, computers, automatic this, automatic that. Are they just gimmicks or are they really a step in the right direction?
Well, in some cases it's a gimmick to sell a car, Brad. There's no question that some people are buying much more technology than they require to do the job. But in many cases, it's good. Now, there's a few pet peeves I have with today's cars. I don't like them doing things I didn't ask them to do. I don't want door locks going, locking when I don't want them locked, etc. But in most cases, many of these subsystems that have been incorporated in the cars have been very beneficial. For example, fuel injection. Absolutely fantastic. It's taken engines to new levels of performance, economy, and emission control that we never could have achieved with carburetors, and it's also simplified the engine bay in most cases. Computers are married in with that fuel injection system and with other subsystems of the car like anti-lock brakes, and they're a very important and integral part of today's cars. The anti-lock brakes that we mentioned, another good system, but don't rely on it to rescue you from every driving situation. If you exceed the traction limits of the tires, you can still spin or skid the car. So don't be encouraged to overdrive your own capabilities or the weather conditions. Airbags, absolutely a fantastic system. They're just the best thing that's ever happened from a safety standpoint to cars, and I think that in the future we're going to see them on almost every car, and I can't wait to have one in my car. And if your car doesn't have one of those four systems I just mentioned, fuel injection, a computer, airbags, or anti-lock brakes, it's getting a little long in the tooth, isn't it? Till next week, I'm Bill Gardner for Motoring 93.
The best new luxury car category features three wonderful automobiles: the Audi 90 CS, the Cadillac Seville STS, and the Infiniti J30. The big story with the new Audi 90, aside from its fresh appearance that is the new 2.8-litre V6 engine found under the hood. As before, the engine drives the front wheels, but now does so with the gusto and demeanour that earlier 90 models were missing. Whether viewed as an out-and-out luxury car or one with underlying sportiness, the new 90 is a car to be reckoned with. When the Seville STS debuted last year, it did so to great critical acclaim. The only thing it lacked was a world-class engine. For 1993, Cadillac have addressed that situation by dropping in their new North Star engine. The result is a car that appeals to both young and old alike, and now must be viewed as one of the world's truly great automobiles. The introduction of the J30 earlier this year gave Infiniti dealers just what the doctor ordered: a car with panache, style, and a level of performance not found in the majority of its competition. When I reviewed the car, I said it could be mistaken for nothing less than a 4-door 300ZX, a tag that it is more than lived up to. The award for Best New Luxury Car, however, this year goes to the General and their truly world-class Seville STS.
I do have one comment on that, Graham. I love the North Star engine in that new Cadillac, but every time I sit in a Cadillac, I feel 30 years older.
Not me. That car thoroughly impressed me, obviously.
All right, speaking of being impressed, our next category is the Sport Performance category. This was a tough one, I know.
Yes, it was. However, it was the one I had the most fun. Getting those cars out on the road and beating them to find out which was the quicker and which was the nicer was a lot of fun.
All right, let's have a look at our three finalists for the Best New Sport Performance Car of 1993.
The finalists in the sports car category are the new Audi 90 Quattro, the Ford Probe, and the Mazda MX-6 Mystia. The new 90 Quattro will continue Audi's dominance in a highly specialized field. When you combine the attributes of a very sophisticated full-time four-wheel drive system with a vehicle that drives and handles as well as it looks, you are bound to have a true winner. And that, my friends, is exactly what the new Quattro is. As before, the Ford Probe and Mazda MX-6 Mystia share much of the same technology. At the heart of any good sports car is a good engine, and the 2.5-litre V6 found in these two cars is as good gets. Combine that with a wonderful 5-speed and a suspension setup that tippy-toes along that fine line between comfort and performance, and you have a terrifically tossable package. From a technical perspective, the major difference between the Probe and the MX-6 boils down to the fact that one is a hatchback, the other a true sports coupe. That said, the two cars do have very different personalities, the Probe being much more aggressive. The winner of this category came from this dueling duo. Now, I selected the MX-6 Mystere as the best new sports car for one reason and one reason only. The Mazda has proper headlights and not those Mickey Mouse pop-up monstrosities found on the Probe. Having said all of that, either one represents a terrific buy.
Our Midas Tip of the Week concerns keeping your car of the year viable for many years to come. There's an awful trend out there amongst car dealers to mail you letters and brochures suggesting that that car that you just bought from them requires servicing, in many cases at double the interval that the car manufacturer requires. It's the car manufacturer himself that is liable for any warranty claims on that car if it goes wrong. So he's not going to let it fall apart for want of service. Follow his service intervals. The main thing to determine is whether your usage falls under normal service or severe service. It's all laid out in that owner's manual. Consult it and follow those intervals as close as you can. And keep records of all your service and maintenance wherever they were done. They're very valuable if you ever have to make a warranty claim, and they're also valuable further down the road if you want to sell that car. It's important information for any used car buyer to look at. Has that vehicle been maintained? That's your Midas Tip of the Week.
It's time to wrap up our long-term testers. This year's crop were all particularly pleasing to drive. The new Subaru Legacy Touring Wagon is the ideal vehicle for the family that is too big for a sedan and too small for a minivan. Its list of credentials is, to say the very least, impressive. You start with a full-time four-wheel drive system, then add anti-lock brakes and a turbocharger just to make sure it stops and goes with suitable aplomb. During our time with the car, we did not have any major problems. Having said that, for the first 4,000 kilometers, there was a strange whistle from the engine, one that was over and above the usual turbo whistle. According to a Subaru rep, the noise had something to do with the catalytic converter. He assured us it was nothing to worry about and that it would disappear with time. He was right on the first count but wrong on the second because it's still there and still an irritant. The other disappointment was the overall fuel economy. It started out at around 27 miles per gallon and then nosedived to 22 and has stayed at that level ever since. That aside, the Legacy proved to be a tremendous hit with all testers, all having nothing but praise for this vehicle and the manner in which it drives. The G20 is the baby of the Infiniti lineup and as such is the most affordable. During our time with this vehicle, we noted several very endearing attributes. Firstly, the level of performance offered by the 140 horse 2-litre 4 is exceptional considering the average fuel economy it returns. At 27 miles per gallon, it surpassed everybody's expectations. Nissan's award-winning limited slip diff also earned plenty of compliments. During the bad weather encountered, it kept the G20 on the straight and narrow, providing a very predictable response in very unpredictable conditions. On the downside, the lack of split folding rear seats became the topic of discussion several times. If anybody was going on a long drive or just wanted to brighten a rather dull day, all testers reached for the MX-6 keys. That sums up just how much fun the car is to drive. The combination of a great suspension, comfortable front seats and a highly potent 2.5-litre V6 combined to make the car a winner to such an extent that it garnered our Best New Sports Car award. On the downside, the power steering quit on us, requiring a quick trip to the dealership. The other item that reared its head as the bad weather set in was the very poor choice of tyres. While they do a stellar job in the dry, they are next to useless in the slush. For those looking at this car, you must factor in an additional $1,200 to $1,500 for a set of wheels and all-season tyres. If you do that, you increase the cost per kilometre by about 6.25 cents for the first year, a considerable expense by any standards.
All right, it is now time for our Family Car of the Year category. Now, Graham, they tell us that families are indeed getting smaller. Are the cars getting smaller?
Absolutely not, as our 3 finalists in the family car category will show. Each of the 3 finalists, the Chrysler LH cars, the Mazda 626 Kronos and the Volvo 850, deserve this award in their own right, so I found this category particularly tough. The new LH cars, the Chrysler Concorde and Intrepid and the Eagle Vision, are not only landmark cars for Chrysler but also for the entire industry. Their clever design, sophistication and size will set new standards for the family car of the 90s. As if the foregoing were not enough, Chrysler have managed to package this technology in a truly stunning looking car. The new Mazda 626 Kronos is light years ahead of the vehicle it replaces, the scary thought being that the old car was considered well above average. As well as successfully combining style, comfort and practicality, the Kronos boasts one of the best V6 engines on the market today, a complete package by any standards. Last and by no means least is the Volvo 850. This car is a radical departure from the usual type of Volvo. To begin with, it is a front-wheel drive car that features a totally new inline-5 engine. The story though is the level of safety engineered into this car. On a scale of 1 to 10, it rates about a 12. I agonized over this category and in the end did something I've never done before. I awarded the best new family car to both the Chrysler LH and the Volvo 850. Both cars have the right ingredients despite coming from opposite ends of the spectrum.
In a few minutes, the Motoring 93 Brain Trust will tell you what they've chosen as their overall car of the year for 1993. Traditionally, I haven't always gone along with my colleagues on these sorts of choices. Last year, I did get lucky and picked the BMW 325, and so did just about everybody else. This year, there's an obvious winner. With all due respect to my colleagues on that American rag motor trend, Ford Probe, Chevrolet Camaro. Listen, for overall significance and importance, it has to be Chrysler's LH sedans, the Chrysler Intrepid, Chrysler Concorde, and Eagle Vision. These things qualify on every count. For starters, they're gorgeous, and we can never get too many pretty cars. They drive well, there's lots of room inside, and even if the assembly quality hasn't quite reached Toyota levels now, neither has the price. 3.3-liter V6, 4-speed automatic, dual airbags, optional anti-lock brakes, and you're still well under $22,000. Now, I don't take the country of origin of a car into consideration when I'm making my picks, but it doesn't hurt at all in my mind that these things are built right here in Canada. Listen, in these tough times, my neighbors need all the help you can get. So listen, Brad and the boys, it's over to you. Let's see if you can make the right choice 2 years in a row.
Well, he's right about one thing. It is now time for Motoring 93's choice for overall best new car of 1993. Before we get to it, Graham, explain the criteria.
Okay, the criteria are twofold. First of all, the car has to be significant not only for the car company but also for the industry. And secondly, it must have won one of the other categories. And so before we announce our car of the year, let's review the 5 cars eligible for that award. And now our choice as car of the year for 1993. That honour goes to the all-new Chrysler LH models, the Concorde, the Vision, and of course the Intrepid that we tested mid-year. All in all, these cars are going to redefine the largest and certainly most lucrative segment of the market.
All right, there you have it. Congratulations to Chrysler and all our winners. And that wraps up our 1993 Car of the Year special. So for Graham, Jim, and Bill, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week for more stories about cars and the people who drive them.
Motoring 93 has been brought to you by Quaker State. Quaker State, one tough motor oil. And Midas, your under-the-car specialists for imports and domestics. Motoring 93 now has a limited supply of high-quality sweatshirts, t-shirts, and baseball caps. For more information or to order, just call this toll-free number